On today's show, should the San Antonio Spurs be better than they are right now this season? Victor Wembanyama unhappy with his minutes restriction. How much is that impacting what the Spurs are able to do on the basketball floor? Plus, the Rookie of the Year race between Chet, Holmgren, and Wemby. What does Wemby need to do to be able to secure the Rookie of the Year award? It's all coming up right here at Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event, right? You're trying to go out and have a good time. You don't want to be stressed about the ticket buying experience. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events happening near you. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. They've got all-in prices, and they show you your price all the way up front, right? I don't know about you. My least favorite thing when I'm buying tickets is to go through the whole process and then get to the very end when I'm trying to check out, and then suddenly I'm paying like an extra $100 in convenience fees and handling fees and digital ticket fee. It's the worst. Game Time has their all-in price, so you know exactly what you're paying up front. No hidden fees, none of that. They're obsessed with finding you ways to help save money on tickets. They've got so many killer deals that you want to take advantage of. Flash deals, last-minute deals, all the way up to and including after the start time of your event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Spurs, Jeff Garcia, who you can track down wherever you listen to your podcast and on YouTube. Just search Locked On Spurs. Now, Jeff, a little bit of, I feel like something that was maybe blown up to be something way more than it was earlier this week. Victor Wembanyama checking himself back into the game against the Memphis Grizzlies late after he'd already hit his minutes restriction cap. He's being limited to 24 minutes a night. He checks himself back in. He said post-game that he checked himself back in against the wishes of the coaching staff, and I saw so many different narratives kind of being run with this, like, oh my God, is Greg Popovich losing control of the locker room? Does Wemby not like Popovich? Walk us through what you think that situation, or how people should read into this situation.
I think to read into it simply this: he's a competitor. That's it. I think that's what it really should come down to. Even Popovich, the next game or next day, a couple days later, said that he's glad that Victor did that, because I need to see the number one, quote unquote, generational next player take steps for this very, very poor Spurs team. If he felt that this team, and he felt they had a chance to get that W and checking himself back in helps, so be it. Now, I don't think he'll do it again. But no, I had no issues with it. Popovich didn't have any issue with it. Even his teammates, for example, Devin Vassell, no issues as well. Although Devin Vassell said he would never pull that stunt with Pop. So he said, no, he ain't doing that. But look, you're the number one pick. You're the franchise. I think the Spurs are going to be, don't do that again, Victor. Okay, don't do that again.
Yeah, Devin Vassell maybe doesn't quite have the Wemby cachet to check himself back into a game. But on this on the minutes, like, you know, the cap on his minutes, right? I get it. They're trying to be very conservative with it. They don't, you know, he had the multiple ankle issues. Like, just you know, at this point though, is it maybe being a bit too aggressive, limiting him to 24 minutes a night? Would you like to see the minutes restriction lifted, or at least maybe stretched out a little bit to 28, 30 minutes so that he can get some regular reps in?
I understand. It's such a fine line. I get what the Spurs are doing. I understand that, but I also understand that he's just a 19-year-old kid. You know, he can bounce back pretty fast. You know, this is not, you know, aged veteran Victor Wembanyama. This is still just a 20-year-old kid. I say meet in the middle. Fine. You want a minutes restriction, Spurs? Wemby wants to get out there. How about a 28, like you mentioned, a 28, 29, around there. Let's do that. Let's meet in the middle. I think that'll keep everybody happy. He's still in the minutes restriction. Popovich said after the loss to Cleveland that he's also frustrated with the minute restriction. But this franchise historically follows to the letter what the medical staff says. And if they say he's time limited on that court, then they're going to stick to that until they lift it. But you're seeing maybe kind of a ripple effect of that. You know, if there maybe wasn't a minutes restriction, do the Spurs get that W versus Milwaukee? Do they get that W versus the Cleveland Cavaliers? But all in all, when they say they take care of player health, they mean it. I mean, I'm not too surprised by this. Popovich has done this. Remember, this is the same Popovich medical staff that's had out Tim Duncan in a pivotal playoff game during the Spurs dynasty run, and they lost the series because Tim Duncan didn't play. So if they're willing to sacrifice the playoff series,
the fountain of youth has been in San Antonio for a long time because they have found a way to rejuvenate and extend careers because of their lauded medical staff. So I mean, look, you follow the professionals, right? You stick to whatever they're going to say, even if guys are frustrated about it, even if it might cost you some wins here or there. I'm glad you brought up the Bucks game because that was one hell of a performance between Victor Wembanyama dueling Giannis Antetokounmpo. He had that block late against Giannis, meeting him at the apex right at the rim. He had the behind the back dunk in transition, postering Brook Lopez. What did you see out of Giannis, or not Giannis, I apologize, out of Wemby in that game against Giannis, I should say?
Man, I saw angry Wemby, and I love to see angry Wemby more. You get it every once in a while, following this team. But when he sees a guy that he looked up to, he grew up watching, that he's going to show out. This is not the first time he's done this versus a star in the league. He did this versus Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is actually the guy that he followed during his young NBA or young basketball career, I should say. So every time it's a guy like that level, that all-star level, Wemby brings heat to the court. I loved it. I was there. Usually I leave my media row seat around the 4-minute mark just to make my way down to the media section. I stayed there until 30 seconds. That's how insane this game was. There's not have been much reason for Spurs fans to be cheering at the Frost this season, but my goodness, the crowd was electric. The fans were up off their seat. It felt like a playoff game, and I haven't felt that in quite some time in San Antonio. So all in all, the duel between Wemby and Greek Freak was awesome to witness. Wemby was on a minute restriction, but still put up some damage against Greek and the Bucks. What more can you say about Giannis? I mean, my goodness, 40-plus points versus San Antonio. It was a great duel, and I don't want to go there yet, but I wonder, for me, if that game versus the Bucks, even though it was an L, kind of started shifting the Spurs towards away from at least getting curb stomped, and a little bit more competitive. So after that game, they played against Cleveland. They took Cleveland to the brink and almost pulled it out. So I'm hoping in a season that's already done, it's toast. It's over. Ain't no be play-on game, no play-in game, no playoffs. It's all about just getting development in and getting the best lottery odds at this point. So, but I'm hoping it'll just turn the corner for this young team, where maybe they just be more competitive, maybe sneak out a win here and there moving forward.
Yeah, those intermittent wins, even in a season that you're going to look at and be like, hey, we're going to be top, bottom 3 again. We're going to get a top pick. Yeah. That's cool, but you need the occasional win to kind of, vindicate what the coaching staff is trying to teach, to cement some of those lessons and be like, hey, what you are doing is right. You can only take so many moral victories, right? Where you come up, a possession short or 5 points short and you're in a close game. You need some of those wins for the young guys to be able to feel good about themselves, about what they're trying to grow and build moving forward. Because right now the Spurs are actually on pace for the worst record of any team in NBA history after receiving the number 1 overall pick. So maybe the Spurs should be a little bit better than where they are right now. Maybe they kind of turn that corner at this point in the season, moving forward, looking a little bit more competitive, and hopefully removing the minutes restriction off of Wemby will allow them to accomplish that. Last thing I've got for you though, Jeff, right now, NBA.com's rookie ladder has Chet Holmgren over Victor Wembanyama for Rookie of the Year. What does Wemby need to do to overtake Chet, or is it maybe more about what do the Thunder need to not do? Right? Do the Thunder need to fall off a little bit for Wemby to have a chance to win the award at this point?
I think the Spurs got to start winning. That's what it comes down to. That's really impacting Wemby so much. He's leading the rookies in most stats if you look at it. From the blocks and the steals and the points and all that good stuff, points to the paint. But Spurs are not racking up W's, and I think that's hurting Wemby so much right now. It actually fueled him. And not kidding, he was asked after the loss versus the Bucks about his performance, and during the media session, somebody asked him, "Hey, well, you played pretty good. Did that losing out to the Rookie of the Month again kind of motivate you?" He flat out said, "Yes, it did." So he's doing all he can, to get that award. But ultimately, it's the Spurs. This season is just a bust so far. You got Chet, no knock on Chet, solid rookie, putting up good numbers for them, but he's impacting the team in a positive way, which makes me wonder, like, lift that minutes restriction. Maybe we start getting some 30 points in a row. I mean, at this point, he has to maybe just do it on his own to get some recognition for the Rookie of the Month. This is going to be a great race to see how it ends. It's really, could you say it's a 3-man race with the kid in Miami? I forget his name. Jaquez, I think is his name.
Jaime Jaquez Jr. Yeah. Look, I think whatever distant third candidate is in the race, it's going to be a 2-man race between Wemby and Chet to the finish line.
Yeah, exactly. But it's going to be great to see. But no, that Spurs record and it's just really hurting him right now. I wonder how that Spurs record may impact him come Western Conference All-Stars. I wonder if that will take a hit too, if that's up in the air for him. But nevertheless, it's just sad to see. You got the number 1 pick, the supposed generational player, just on a bad team right now. And you mentioned right now on pace to be the worst record, to finish the season with the worst record after getting the number 1 pick.
Well, it's okay. We'll leave the Spurs and Wemby to worry about the Rookie of the Year award because there's another big man in Texas who's got his eyes on that all-star spot coming out west as a big man. That's going to be Alperen Şengün. But with the San Antonio Spurs, how much longer are they going to keep Wemby on a minutes restriction? Will they turn the corner and start picking up some dubs here, or should they be better than they currently are right now? You'll have us covered for all of that and so much more over at Locked On Spurs. Jeff, thanks for stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Anytime.